And then it just keeps getting better. This is like the action that I signed up for here. I'm so annoyed at the show, so annoyed. But I'm really enjoying this. This must have felt really good to see this scene and watch the two of them working together as equals, and to be one of them working through a hotel full of infected of clickers and having to go and take them out one at a time, working as equals. This would have been so nice to have seen this. I keep saying that, but you have to. I mean, what else is there to say?
Sometimes we don't get what we want.
Hey, this is the Sword and the Pen Reflections. It is my casual alternative to that channel. If you're here, you know the deal. I don't need to go over it again, but we are on part 3 of my review or critique of The Last of Us Game 2. You can see the previous video up there or down in the description. Before we get into it, I want to go over a couple of quick notes. The first one being about the performance of the actress who plays Ellie in the game and singing Take On Me. Now, I am watching somebody else's gameplay, and what I saw had a poor performance of that song, and so I commented on it as I was viewing it. But then when I was editing, I went and I looked up, was this intentional? Because voice actors tend to have training in singing and things like that. So I wanted to see, was this really this bad? Because a lot of people commented on Bella Ramsey's performance and said it was terrible, and I was going, I thought it was better than this in the game. So I looked it up and I found out, yes, they actually did tell her to please not sing well. They even brought in a coach to ensure that she didn't sing well for that particular performance. And so I was like, oh, well, then that explains it. And in my notes, I said, I don't think that they should have had her sing that poorly because it was distracting to me. And I included a clip in there, and a lot of folks also commented and said, that's terrible. But they were also saying that's not the way it is in the game. And I didn't get that, of course, until I'd already uploaded it so that people could see it and tell me. I thought I had done my due diligence, but they were correct. This actually was a manipulated audio so that way the copyright ID wouldn't be able to find this song, because if you don't know anything about YouTube, you put a song in there, YouTube is very, very good at identifying it and then claiming it, and then they get to collect either all or part of the revenue from your video. Sometimes they can even block it from being viewable at all, which has happened to me a bunch of times. As a matter of fact, most of my videos for The Last of Us show and then also for The Wheel of Time are totally demonetized because HBO or Amazon Prime, they just claim the video and say, any money you make off of this, it belongs to us now. And I go, it's a pain in the butt. So I understand why that manipulation was made, and it also makes sense why it didn't claim my video when I uploaded it, because the person whose gameplay I am watching manipulated it so that nobody else would be able to identify it and it would get past that copyright ID. So that is the story of why you heard a terrible version and why I heard a terrible version. And I have since watched other recordings of that performance, and yes, the performance is much better. I would say it's better or on par, at least, with Bella Ramsey's performance in the show. Clearly this actress does have a strong voice when it comes to singing and is a lot more confident. But anyway, so that was that note. And the other note I wanted to make is I know I'm getting a lot of folks telling me that I need to play the video game in order to understand it or really feel all of the things that are required for it. And I want to just stress again here, the only thing I will feel attempting to play this game is frustration. I cannot play video games. I am in my 40s and I have only held a video game controller for maybe 2 hours in my entire life, and that was over 20 years ago. I was attempting to do the tutorial and I said, forget it, this isn't for me. I have not picked one up since. It would take me at least 5 or 6 times as long to get through the game as anybody else, even on the most basic, easy level. And then in that case, if it's basically walking me through everything, why should I bother even playing? I should just watch somebody else who actually knows what they're doing play. And so that is what I am doing. The choice literally is I play the game and not have enough time to make videos about it, or I don't play the game, but I watch somebody who knows how to play and I take into consideration the notes that people give me about what game players expect or what they experience, and then include that in my critique, and then I do get videos out. So it's either no videos or videos, and I'm choosing to do videos. I'm sorry, I'm not a gamer. I'll probably never play video games. That's how it is. when you get old, you just realize there's some things that I'm just not gonna do. So the note that I got last time was about slow segments of storytelling, because there were a lot of chunks in that previous video, which you can view up there or down in the description if I didn't mention that already, where there wasn't a lot of story progression. It was just the characters kind of poking around, checking stuff out, killing some zombies, and my note for that was, this is very time consuming. It doesn't feel like they have an urgent goal that they are going towards, because at this point they had not discovered, you know, the bodies that Tommy had left. They had not been captured. They were literally just arriving in Seattle and then exploring a bunch of different locations. And for me, I was going, I would really like to see the story progress at this point as a storyteller. And the notes that I got in the comments were that this is something that game players actually really enjoy. This is like the part of the game that they like the most. And then bits of story are rewards for the things that they're doing in all of these moments, these waiting periods. So I'll keep that in mind going forward whenever there is a slow section, but that's it. That's all I had to say about that. So please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way to support this channel, or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. You can become a subscriber, you can leave me a one-time tip, and anything is much appreciated. That's it. Let's get into it. We left off in the theater with Ellie has just been exposed, I guess, where she explained to Dina, and for the second time really, but now it's like out, that she's immune. And she's confirmed that with Dina now, because Dina saw her breathing spores and not being affected by it instead of being bitten like it was in the show. And then Dina revealed that she is pregnant. She wasn't really sure, and then they were on this journey, and then she kind of realized, oh crap, I think I am pregnant. And Ellie was really upset about this, and then she's like, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make sure that the rest of the building is secure. So she's gonna go and look around the theater, and she's grumbling to herself, which I liked, and she finds another guitar and sits down to start playing If I Ever Were to Lose You, and we jump into a flashback 3 years before. Finding a second guitar that is still in playing condition is a little bit forced, but it's okay. This is one of those situations where you go, okay, they were in a music store before, that's a likely place to find a guitar. And then now they're in a theater where that is another likely place to find a guitar. I actually liked in the show that she found some moisture packets in there that would keep the interior of a guitar case dry. I'm just not convinced that the shell of the guitar case is always going to be one that's going to survive. In the theater, it makes a lot of sense. In the music store, though, it made a little less sense because everything was so exposed in there. There was plants and things growing in there. It was basically sitting there on top of the grass untouched. But it's okay. That's me nitpicking, really. So we're 3 years back now. Okay, I really like this flashback. So it's her with Joel, she's playing the guitar, and he's like, all right, let's go. And she's trying to guess where they're going. It's obviously a surprise for her birthday, which is, actually, it's not revealed yet, but that's what I know from the show. It's her birthday, and Joel is taking her to a birthday surprise, and she's trying to guess what it is. The first thing she guesses is a dinosaur, which I'm assuming it's going to be like it was in the show, and it actually is a dinosaur. But at one point, he pushes her into a river, and she gets all annoyed, but it's revealed, oh, Ellie can swim. So he has obviously worked on her swimming with her, just as they promised in the previous game. And she gets back out on shore. They go over and they see a deer, and they're looking at it, and Ellie shoves him into the water. And it's just a cute back and forth. And I can tell that this was most likely used in order to show that, yes, they have worked on swimming, and you as the gamer need to learn how to swim with Ellie now too. He has her hold her breath, and they have to swim underneath a tree that has fallen in the way, because now he's like, we actually need to swim through this bit to get to where we're going. So I liked this. I mean, I get why they didn't put it in the show. Its purpose really does seem to be to show that she couldn't swim, and then allow the gamer to learn how to swim with Ellie. And we don't really need that in the show, because I don't think that swimming was ever brought up. At least, I don't remember it being brought up. Maybe it was at that point where they were in the hotel and there was water that was like thigh high, which you wouldn't need to swim through thigh high water, but I think she offhandedly mentioned it. But swimming didn't really come up in in season 1 of the HBO show. So I understand them cutting this bit out, and I'm totally fine with that. if they did have her mention in the show that she couldn't swim, it would have been nice to maybe have some sort of a mention that she has since learned how to swim. I can't recall a good place to have done that would have been when they do have to cross over the river, and maybe him teasing about pushing her in, and you're like, well, I can swim now, so, what would be the big deal? But anyway, another thing I liked about this little section here, and I think this is the beginning of this phase in the storytelling, because there seem to be phases in the storytelling. Joel mentions to Ellie, you need to work on not letting other people rile you up, because she mentioned how she and her friend would always argue with her 6th grade teacher because the teacher would call the Fireflies terrorists and it would make her so angry. And he's like, you need to work on not letting other people rile you up so much. And this would be a good arc. So what you do often in storytelling is introduce a problem at the beginning of your story with a character who's saying, here is a flaw that this character has, and they need to overcome this flaw. And so you would introduce it in such a way where somebody who already sees this flaw in them, or some event exposes this flaw in them, and it becomes very obvious to the audience or the reader that, oh, that's what needs to be fixed. And then we kind of keep that in the back of our mind as we are watching the character go through their journey of overcoming this flaw. So I suspect that's what's going on here, where we have Joel recognizing her flaw of letting other people get her riled up and saying, you need to get over that. And then she's like brushing that off as, no, I don't need to. And then at the end of her journey, we would see her realizing, yes, I need to get over that. Just a guess. I don't actually think I remember that happening in the show ever. So that would have been something that if the show was mine, I would have said, this is a good thing to do. What it does is it solidifies the arc of your character. It also highlights elements of a theme if you are exploring a particular theme. And we know that revenge is one of the exploration of the consequences of having a vengeful heart is something that is explored in this show, or in this story. So that would have been something that would have been nice to just highlight. It's an element of the defeating the need for revenge or vengeance, is being able to sort of like, water off a duck's back, not be so riled up and affected by other people's actions or words. They emerge out of the bushes, and turns out it is a dinosaur, and it plays out almost the same as it does in the show, where Ellie climbs up onto it and is saying like, I'm on a dinosaur, and it's cute. I like this. And she ends up jumping off of the dinosaur into some water that I guess is underneath there, and then swimming out, and Joel was upset about that. If this is what Ellie in the show had done, I would have been really annoyed by it, because Ellie in the show was an obnoxious character. But here in the game, it's really enjoyable because we've seen a mostly good Ellie. 99% of Ellie is just so pleasant. She's competent, she's kind and compassionate, and she's got this little spunky attitude that comes out every once in a while, a little bit of playfulness, but it's never something that's unearned. So I liked it. Anyway, they go into the museum and pick up a hat, not unlike this one, which if you've seen any of my Alaska videos, this is something that I got while I was there because it was raining every single day. It's not good for the late in studio though. But anyway, they're walking around and she's putting it on the heads of all the different dinosaurs, and they're talking about, what their scientific name is or what it means and making fun of it. And Joel is explaining about Jurassic Park and like what he knows about dinosaurs is from Jurassic Park. And he's talking about the first movie was great, the second movie was terrible, and they make plans to go and watch it. I loved this. And this, I think I could totally see being a gamer really enjoying just exploring the dinosaur exhibit and having this little bit of conversation with these little tidbits about movies that we all know and we're all familiar with, but that Ellie would have had no memory of whatsoever because she was born after the apocalypse, so nobody's watching these movies. But Joel does say that, hey, when we get back to Jackson, implying that he may know where there's a copy of this somewhere in Jackson, he's going to show it to Ellie. I don't understand why, they wouldn't, in the show, they had movie nights and stuff. I would almost feel like kids would just be dying for movies. They would be like books back in ye olden days. The books were the adventures and the stories. Anybody who likes video games or likes movies or TV shows today would have been a book reader back in the day, because that was where you experienced escapism, was through reading. So I just feel like the kids would have seen every movie available in Jackson at this point. I would have anyway. But I thought it was interesting. There was, right before she goes into the space area, there is a wall that talks about extinction. And I feel like this is put in here. Maybe this whole section with the dinosaurs is put in here as kind of like a reflection of what is going to become of humanity someday, except that there won't be humans around to appreciate that history. It'll literally just blink out of existence and there will be no one to recognize it unless some other intelligent species comes and like, I don't know, lands on Earth and decides our home now. Then they can dig up our bones and display them and put hats on them like that. But I liked it. I liked that there was a little bit of thematic symbolism here. The Last of Us, these people, humanity is, at least the way it's presented in the game and in the show, there's not much of a future, a high probability that we will just be wiped out eventually. There won't be anybody left, and there will be nothing but bones in our wake, just like with the dinosaurs. So I like that. The space history segment goes more or less the same as it did in the show, just a few minor changes here and there. One thing that the show did that I actually liked was highlighting that there were many, many parts to this day that Joel planned in advance and put effort into preparing for her. Not just the cassette with the launch, which is a beautiful scene. I really love this scene. I love it in the game. I loved it in the show. It was really the best scene in the entire show, was this particular flashback from the dinosaur thing all the way through the space launch and all that good stuff. Now in the show, when they first get into the space history section and there's the model of the solar system and she starts turning that crank so that it goes around, she gets all surprised that it still works, and Joel makes the offhanded comment that, oh, it's almost like somebody came in here and greased it up for you. And then she kind of realizes he actually came in there and put that effort into making it so that it works, so that when she turns that crank, it works. They didn't have that comment in the game, and the mobile, or whatever you call it, does work. They call it an orrery if it's working. Anyway, in the game, she's turning the crank and the globe for the sun actually lights up and everything's rotating smoothly like this, but there's no comment about like how surprised she is that it still works. So I like that in the show, they made a comment about it to kind of acknowledge that there's no way that this would just work, that it would remain motionless like this for so long, and then somebody could just walk up to it and start turning the crank and it would function exactly as it did, 20 years before. So that was a nice little fix, I guess, but you could watch this and just assume that Joel also did the oil work on this as well. But I did like in the show that you can see Ellie kind of surprised and delighted and appreciative of the effort that Joel obviously went to make this whole experience like a package that is being opened layer by layer for her. There's the dinosaurs, then there's this mobile that's still working, and then there's the space shuttle, and then there's the cassette to go along with it. I liked that it was presented in that way in the show. It wasn't presented that way in the game, but you could also just kind of make that assumption that he knew all of this stuff was here because obviously he went and made or got a copy of the launch audio for the cassette that he was able to give to her. So there was some planning involved in that respect. But I like that in the show it was like highlighted that he planned more than just this cassette. There was a lot to it, and he had to have gone out there several times in order to make sure it was totally prepared for her when he brought her along. The final part of this flashback is Ellie wants to go and explore the other building that Joel has not explored. And she asks him like, hey, lift me up into it. And he's like, I don't know. Like, he's kind of giving some indications that he's getting old. And like, that's, I don't really want to do this sort of stuff with you anymore. But she really wants to go and do it. So he lifts her up into the other building. And she's looking around. And I love that she was getting spooked by some of the animal displays, because she would like climb in through a hole and suddenly there'd be like wolves like staring at her. And she's like, oh, creepy, they're stuffed wolves. And then at one point there was a good jump scare where a boar comes out of the dark and pushes her over and then tears off. I mean, that thing should have maybe even killed her depending on why it was there. But that was effective. That even just watching it spooked me. And Joel ends up coming in, and Ellie has discovered spray painted on the wall a Firefly symbol, and somebody underneath it has spray painted liars underneath it. And suddenly the tone becomes somber, and you can tell that Ellie is a little bit disturbed by this, and all of her experiences from game one are kind of coming back, especially towards the end there. And Joel sort of recognizes this and says, let's get out of here. You know, we want to make a fire before it gets too dark. I like that in the game, or I like that in the show, they didn't make it this extra journey. I mean, I see it's called truncation, when you take events that take place in different locations or different scenes, and you see how can we smush them together so that the information that we need from experience 1 and 2 happen all in one experience. And this is what they did here. So in the game, it was the building 1 and then building 2. And what they did in the show is they said, okay, how about if they don't go into building 2, how can she be reminded of the Fireflies, like this moment? How can we still have that weird minor key come in at the very end of this wonderful experience that she's just had? But I don't like how they executed it. I like how they did it, not how they did it. I like the idea of what they did, but in the show, it was very vague as to what the heck she was looking at when she suddenly got all disturbed, or something seemed off. She's walking across a river and she's looking out into the forest, and I looked and I looked and I looked. I thought she was looking at a tree. I was trying to figure out what the heck she was looking at, and then she just leaves. And I'm going, I don't understand what it is. She just got all disturbed and then left. And then people in the comments were saying, oh, she was looking at the fireflies in the air. And I went, fireflies? I don't remember seeing any fireflies. And I went back and I looked at it, and what happened was when I watched it the first time, this is just the show, mind you, when I watched it the first time, and the many times that I watched it afterwards trying to figure out what it was she was looking at and couldn't see anything, I thought that those were bugs caught in the sunlight. I did not catch at all that those were fireflies. So I think that if it was my show, I would have said, we need to do something a little bit more. Maybe they come across the sign for the museum, and somebody has, like, they walked in on one side of the sign and they walk out on the other side of the sign, and on the other side of the sign we can have literally this moment here with the picture of the fireflies. Like, that would have worked for me better than that, because I could not tell that those were firefly bugs in the air. I thought they were just moths and little bugs, like flies caught in the sunlight. Or they could have shown them better and been definitive about, nope, those are definitely fireflies. But anyway, maybe it was only me. Maybe I'm the only one who saw that and did not see what the hell she was looking at and could not figure out what the hell she was all disturbed about. I mean, until I was told those were fireflies. Please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It's a free way for you to support the channel, and for me, it might bring in some money from all the commercials they keep putting on my videos. Or if you're feeling super generous, check out my Patreon or Ko-fi. I've got links in the description. Or you can hit the Money Heart Thanks button down below. Now, let's get back to it. So that's the end of the flashback there, and we return to Ellie, who fell asleep right there in the theater. Like, if she was in the stage area where she found the guitar and started playing and then had her little memory thing, she fell asleep the whole night, I guess. I mean, wouldn't Dina come looking for her? Whatever. Anyway, so she gets up and she goes looking for Dina, and she finds Dina vomiting into a trash can. And obviously it's a little tense between them because the last thing that they discussed was how Dina's pregnant, and this is a huge burden and responsibility now that Ellie did not want to be part of this journey. Like, this, you're in the way now. We should not be on this. Basically, you get the idea. But in Ellie's absence, Dina has repaired the little walkie-talkie that they took, and she's identified that Owen, one of the WLF guys, has gone AWOL. I like this in the game so much better than what they did in the show, because in the show, it was like Ellie had no interest in trying to figure out where anybody was or what was going on with them. She just left it all up to Dina, which made Ellie look terrible. In this case, Dina is doing kind of the same thing that she was in the show. However, she's doing this to kind of make up for the burden that she has just revealed herself to be. I like to put it in here at this moment and not earlier, because I even commented about it in the game, that in the game, Dina is the help. She is tagging along. She's not leading this, whereas in the show, she was basically leading the whole thing. Here, though, we have her stepping up now, And it's the appropriate place for her to do it because she knows she's got to make up for the fact that she is pregnant and she is now this is not something that she should have hid. She should have revealed it much earlier so that they could go back, but she didn't want to. She wanted to come along, and now she's got to like make up for it. She's got to be like, I need to show that I'm a contributing member of this team. So this is the first time we're really seeing her do anything really big like this, except she did save Ellie's life at least once earlier. But anyway, I think I think earlier, as in before they went on this revenge mission. Either way, it doesn't matter. She's showing that she's making a big effort to be a contributing member to the revenge effort. And this is the appropriate place to do it. So I like this. This is giving Dina's character a bit of a journey of its own. Whereas in the show, she was from the very beginning she was the go-getter. She's the one doing everything. She was the most competent. She was the most invested. She was the one putting in all the effort. Like, why was Ellie even on this mission with her? Because she should have just gone and done it by herself. But here, it gives her effort purpose. It is clearly showing that she wants to make up for being the burden, and she really wants to stay and be part of this. So I like it. It's just way more interesting. Ellie scooches over next to Dina and kind of rubs her back, which, because she's been puking, and sort of apologizes for the night before, saying, last night was stupid, about her getting all upset and everything, which, it wasn't really stupid, but she's apologizing, which just makes her very likable. She's expressing that she wished that didn't happen, and this is more effort than we saw on Ellie's part in the show in just about every situation where she should have done something like this. So again, just keeping Ellie a very likable, compassionate, thinking of other people's feelings kind of person, which is not what we got at all in the show. It's really unfortunate that they didn't do that. Anyway, they hear on the radio that the WLFs have crossed paths with a lone gunman or something, and they're like, oh my gosh, that must be Tommy. And they say he's over at, I think, Station 14 or Site 14, whatever. Either way, Dina has figured out that they've numbered all of their bases, like all the places where they go. She thinks that 2 is their home base, and she points out that 12 is over here, really far away, so 14 must be way up in this other spot. So she's like, I think that must be where Tommy is. And the two of them are going to set off now and go look for Tommy to meet up with him. But it becomes very obvious that Dina is very run down and tired, which happens to you when you're pregnant. My sister recently had a baby, and it was something that we all got to see in her, just how tired it makes you. It's pulling all of your energy out of your body. So it becomes obvious that Dina really shouldn't be going on this mission with Ellie. And Ellie's like, look, you stay here, keep listening to them, figuring out where they are, figure out where they're going, all of this stuff, and I will go and get Tommy. And they both agree that that's the right decision. And Dina gives her a bracelet and says, this is for good luck, which I don't recall in the show that she said it was for good luck. She just took it off and put it on Ellie. And we're just supposed to assume that it's something significant. I like here in the game that at least it's explained this is for good luck. They should have done that in the show. They also did it right in front of Jesse, and it was, which is not a nice thing to do when it's not obvious that Ellie and Dina are together now, and Jesse is the father of the baby, and all kinds. He's just come here to rescue them, and she doesn't even acknowledge Jesse, who saved her life earlier, pulling that arrow out and carrying her off to safety and saving him from the zombies, to just do it right in front of him. It was like a slap in his face. It was terrible. So this is much better, much better. Anyway, so Ellie is off now to retrieve Tommy on her own, or at least to meet up with him. There's this crazy moment where Ellie is approaching, where she can hear some voices, and she hides inside a building, and you can hear that the guys who are the WLF guys think, oh, this is an infected, so they're going to go and investigate. And she plants a smoke bomb and then sneaks around to the other side and then uses some sort of a silent gun. I didn't even get a good look at it. I'm going to look again. I still don't know what this thing is, but either way, she comes around and shoots one guy, and then there's another guy who's approaching where she just planted this smoke bomb thing. That goes off and I guess kills that guy. And this is awesome. Why did they not have Ellie doing cool stuff like this in the show? This was really smart. She set up an explosion to happen, an area to take out another guy if they ever got to that spot, and then sneaks around so that she can attack from behind or from the flank at least, and then uses a silent weapon of some kind. This is so much smarter than anything we saw her do in the show. In the show, she got into the hospital by luck. For some reason, the guy handling that dog decided that the dog was barking at a squirrel and not at a person. So she lucked out that this guy who was in charge of this security dog did not recognize that the dog was barking at an intruder and not just some random squirrel that it wanted to chase. Oh my gosh, it's so stupid. But this is good. I liked, this was thrilling. And it gets better. So she's off sneaking around because she hears an explosion and she goes over towards where it is and sees, she's like, man, I hope that's you, Tommy, because she's moving towards it. And she comes across a guy who's injured and walking by, and she's got her pistol out ready to go, but she doesn't shoot. Why? Because if she shoots, the other WLFs will hear it and they'll come towards her. So instead she stalks this guy, jumps him from behind with her knife and slits his throat. This was so good. Why did they not do this in the show? This is awesome. This is like the kind of stuff that I wanted to see her doing. Some stuff that shows that she's really capable. This is somebody who learned from Joel. This is somebody who traveled with Joel across the country, killing infected and running away from raiders. Like, this is the kind of person that I would expect to result from that upbringing. What happened in the show? She almost gets cornered in a building. The WLFs have thrown a smoke bomb in there, but she shoots her way out and manages to get away. And just as she's backing up because she realizes there's a bunch of WLFs, someone from behind grabs her, and it's Jesse. And she's like, what the hell are you doing here? And he's like, you think I was gonna let you go and do this all on your own? Where's Dina? And Ellie's like, well, she's safe, she's sick. And he's like, what kind of sick? And she's like, she's fine, don't worry about it. And anyway, this was even better than what they did in the show as well. Even though it's like coincidental that they met up, but the thing is in this situation, because of the explosion before, whether it was because of Jesse or because of Tommy, I could see Tommy or Jesse being here because of that explosion. He would be like, that's where the action is. That's probably Tommy or the girls. Or he's the one who set off that bomb, in which case then that's why he is there, and this is why Ellie came across him. It's far more likely that this is how they would join up than what we had in the show, which is he happened to walk into the same building that they decided to sneak through and then saved their asses when they were being attacked by smart infected. I know that they gave him like, oh, well, he tracked them or whatever. In all that rain, I'm okay, whatever. Anyway, it was just less believable, but that's fine. That's like a minor complaint. It was just very surprising that he found them. I was very happy that he found them because finally somebody competent. But in this case, it's like Ellie's pretty competent too. So now I'm actually cool with the two of them working together. I want to see them team up, working together to get out of this mess and find Tommy. But I wonder what Jackson is going through right now. So they had one guy take off to go seek revenge. Then two girls go after him. And then a third guy or second guy goes off to chase the two girls. Like, Jackson, people are just slowly migrating out of Jackson to go on this revenge quest. And then it just keeps getting better. This is like the action that I signed up for here. So they decide that they're gonna steal this truck. Well, this is Jesse's idea. We're gonna go get that truck. And there's a bunch of guys in the way. Ellie's like, this is really reckless, but they go for it because they need to get some distance from the WLFs. They are outnumbered in this area. So they manage to get in the truck. Jesse's in the driver's seat and it's not starting. And Ellie's like, give it some gas. And he's like, I'm trying. And then other WLF guys show up and Ellie is holding them off, shooting out the back window while Jesse's trying to get this thing going. It's funny because Ellie actually seems like the one with the smarts just because she knew what the problem was with the truck and was like, give it more gas. And I'm not saying that Jesse looks stupid. He's just in the unfortunate position of like, it's not starting and I'm the one trying to make it start. But she is the one protecting them as they go. Why did they change this? Like, why would you want Ellie to look totally incompetent? I mean, the one thing that they did do is they made Jesse look more competent by having him be the only competent one between the two of them. So in the show, he looked more competent, even though he does prove himself in the game as well. So he gets the vehicle moving and they're taken off and there's other WLF vehicles that are coming up and showing up and Ellie's having to shoot through the windshield and out the side windows. And at one point they're fighting off a car that's right alongside them and Ellie has to kick the door open and it's just like all kinds of crazy ass stuff happens. It's pretty great. This is a really good action sequence. And then they end up in a section where there's like a whole bunch of infected, and now the infected are coming after them. So the WLFs aren't the problem anymore. It's the infected. And the two of them are like just doing everything they can to get out of here. Why would you not show that Ellie is capable? I'm really struggling with this. Was there ever an explanation for why they decided to make Ellie completely incompetent? This would have been great to see on screen. Ellie and Jesse working together to get this car out of this situation. So I'm flabbergasted. I don't get it. This is great. This would have been excellent TV. Anyway, they end up losing the truck in their escape, but it does allow them to escape, and they go back to the theater. And there's a few little things that I actually really like. Jesse still has his loyalty where, you know, he shows up and Dina's like, how did you get past Maria? And he goes, I snuck out. And he goes, well, you know, my friend's problems are my problems. Like, he was the best character in the show. The thing is in the game, all the other characters are really likable already also. So I'm just like, I'm on team Ellie, Jesse, Dina at this point. Dina's the least likable of them so far, but she's like barely unlikable. Like, just keeping the secret of being pregnant was not something that worked in her favor, but she made up for it when Ellie came in the next morning and discovered that she had figured out where the WLFs were stationed, what their movements were, and this was a great blueprint for a TV show. I don't know why you would change it so much. Anyway, Dina helps him to a couch. He had injured himself before teaming up with Ellie, before they found Ellie, and was limping around everywhere. And so she's, you know, rolling up his pants to like see if there's an injury or whatever. And he's talking about, first he asks her like, hey, I heard you're sick. And she's like, oh, it's just a stomach thing. So she's hiding the truth from him. They're talking back and forth about how he snuck out of Jackson and how he got caught in a snowstorm and had to do like an 18-hour stretch right before he got to them. And anyway, Ellie is hanging back, listening in kind of awkwardly, and we're sort of in her shoes going, Dina is keeping it a secret from him. She's obviously giving him special attention. We know that the two of them dated and then broke up, and I think it's kind of clicking with Ellie, like, these two are about to have a child together. He doesn't know it. Dina's hiding it from him, but like this is very awkward, and it's also putting extra weight on this mission. Like, should you really be going on a revenge mission with this woman, with Dina, who's about to have a baby? Probably not. So should she and he's injured. It's like more reason for her not to go. So I like this. This is good. So I think that I've identified where the end of that previous phase was, or at least where it was going, which, you know, Joel telling Ellie that you can't hang on to everything, you know, or let people rile you up and get you angry like that. And the obvious message here is that forgiveness is the way out of this. You know, be able to forgive somebody, and you won't be brought down by that anger that comes up when you've been wronged or when somebody has done something to irritate you. Because we go into a flashback between Ellie and, it's with Ellie, of her going on, it looks like a patrol with Tommy. And Tommy is talking about how he obviously forgot Maria's birthday. And he's like, I would have forgotten my own birthday if she didn't remind me of it all the time. And Ellie just tells him, you should just apologize. And Tommy's like, what the heck's the matter with you? Not like he thinks that he shouldn't apologize, but he's recognizing that there's something off with Ellie. And she's like, it's nothing, I just got stuff on my mind. But this seems to be like, you put this flashback here because it shows the conclusion of that phase, the whole you should forgive, because asking for forgiveness or apologizing is something that you would, I guess, want from the other side, but it's part of that process, the whole forgiveness process. For me, it doesn't quite work as well as it could, simply because this is a flashback. So this is information that she would have had beforehand. However, Tommy is pointing out to Ellie that he recognizes she's not herself. So this is like a piece of wisdom that she has somewhere in the back of her mind, and it has come out. So I guess it works in that sense. Sorry about my dogs barking. They're not my feet, but my actual dogs. There's 3 of them in the house right now, and they bark. Well, one of them barks at everything, and then another one decides that because that one's barking, I gotta bark too. Fortunately, the one dog that is actually mine doesn't bark at all. she'll just sit there and watch the others bark. But whatever. Thank goodness. She's really got a scary voice when she barks. But yeah, at least as far as the material that is being delivered, no matter what the context is, this is a flashback or whatever, it's that information being delivered to the audience that is important for sticking with this phase, this phase of storytelling where the theme is letting go of the need for vengeance or revenge or that anger, and apologizing is part of that process. It'd usually be from the other side, you would hope, but it's still part of that whole process or related to it strongly enough that I can see this being part of it here. So I like this. And I also really like that she's having a moment with Tommy where we see the two of them bonding. So in the show, we never really saw the two of them have a real meaningful conversation like this, where they're talking about something like this. We had her and Tommy going out shooting infected, but that turned into Ellie just going, I want to go on patrol. You need to convince Joel to let me go on patrol. And Tommy's like, he's the one in charge. And she's like, I'm going to go. It was like so bad. It was terrible. This, however, is showing that Tommy knows Ellie enough and that he would recognize that she's kind of off, and he's asking, how are you? And she's giving him good advice about his relationship. She's showing that she's taking an interest in it. You should just apologize. I think it's self-evident how this is so much better than what we got in the show. I don't know if we're going to have this scene also between her and Tommy actually, we won't, because we already had that. Where in the show, she and Dina went and talked to Tommy about, hey, we want to go on this revenge thing. And he was like, no, you shouldn't. We got to talk to the council. That's already happened in the game. So I don't think we're going to have it again. But this, I think, is replacing that time when she and Tommy went out to test the new scope on his rifle and shoot infected. And they have their conversation. But I'm just liking what they're talking about and how it is exemplifying the two of them as having this close relationship where they talk about meaningful things. It's not about a spoiled child asking for more stuff. And then when she's told you can't have it, she throws a tantrum, and then the grown-up gives in. Oh, that's a great way to teach a good lesson to a kid. It's just even better. So they come up to this ridge where they can see across like a valley on the other side, on the other slope, where there's a building and a sign. And Tommy was shooting over there, and he's like, hey, you want to try? And she's like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah, sure. Hands her the rifle, and he's like, shoot the sign, and that'll probably draw out more if they're hiding. And she does, and then she's able to pick off the other infected that come out. And she's like, man, this thing is cool. And then he's like, hey, you want to go find more? And she's like, yeah. So they go off. This is so nice because they didn't have her like stepping in and demanding, I want to shoot, which is what I could imagine them doing in the show because it would fit the character that they created in the show a lot more. But this is so much more likable. She's recognizing that Tommy is an authority. Not only is he older and wiser and more experienced than she is, but he's also in charge of her. He is her protector in this particular situation. It's the two of them out alone. She's a kid, he's an adult. And so he's the one in charge. And so for her to not even ask, can I do this thing, is kind of showing that she recognizes that if she's going to be allowed to do something, then he'll offer it. And then when he does, she's like grateful for it. Like, I'm so annoyed at the show, so annoyed. But I'm really enjoying this. She even immediately gives the rifle back when he asks for it back. And she says, thank you for that. That's just what I needed. Like, this is showing that the two of them understand each other. They have a history of knowing what will make the other feel better. And also it exposes that Tommy let her shoot because he recognized something was wrong. And then the conversation continues where he's like, hey, Joel's worried about you. He knows something's up. Like, you guys need to talk about this, and she's like, we talk all the time. And he's like, well, you got to say something more than just hi and bye. So we're getting that this is something that takes place after the whole museum flashback and that there's something troubling her. We saw the thing with the Fireflies. I can see where it's starting to introduce that she has figured out what has happened, or she suspects what happened, at least in the previous game. I like this, and I really like that this is being used as an opportunity to show closeness between her and Tommy, to show that they have this relationship and kind of exemplify it. The fact that Tommy did something for her that not only empowered her, but helped heal her. And it started out with her giving suggestions to Tommy about, you know, how he can deal with his relationship, because he was exposing some vulnerability himself about me and Maria are, you know, she's giving me the silent treatment now, and which was obviously a way for him to kind of introduce the conversation about her and Joel. This is so nice. It shows that they have a meaningful, deep relationship, like an uncle-niece who are very close. It's exemplifying the positive part of the relationship that they would have developed off screen, which we need since Ellie is literally risking her life following Tommy. We don't just want her to be like, oh, she's just on this revenge mission. She's also keeping her promise to Maria to bring Tommy back. So this is showing why we should be invested in her journey to go after Tommy, and we can see why she would actually do this sort of thing. I like this. It's so nice. Why would they not do this in the show? Like, I keep saying it. It's baffling. It's baffling. This is obviously superior. It segues into Ellie and Tommy walking into this lodge where obviously Joel is stationed and he's been keeping lookout, and they're sitting down. Joel is fiddling with the guitar and he's like, hey, I noticed you didn't change the strings at all. And she's like, I didn't know I was supposed to. And he's like, yeah, you are. And Tommy's sitting there and he goes, hey, there's a music store down in the valley there. Maybe, you know, you could find some strings in there. Like, he's trying to like, you guys could go do this and then maybe you can talk. He just had the talk with Ellie saying that you need to talk to Joel. Obviously, Joel has been trying to make this effort and she's been kind of shutting it down. And I like that you see Tommy kind of laugh or like smile in victory that he has, you know, gotten the two of them to get together and go do this thing alone so that they can hopefully talk. It's so nice. And then, so yeah, Joel and Ellie pack up their stuff and they're going to go check the music store. Why did they change this? So while Ellie is riding out on horseback with Joel's talking about how, yeah, Jesse says that you're getting pretty good in the group patrols, and he thinks that you might be ready for the paired up patrols. And Ellie is like, I'm a better shot than like all of them. Like, I really want to go and do this. And he's like, okay, just, you know, do me a favor and only do the short patrols first. Like, this is still so much nicer, and you're still including her eagerness to go out on patrol. I don't see why they didn't. I don't see why they didn't do this in the show. I just don't understand it. Why did they have her acting like a spoiled teenager demanding, I want to go out on patrol. I want to do this. And if I don't get it, I'm going to throw a tantrum and then you're going to have to send me and then I'll get my way and I'll be like, yay, me. It was like awful. It was so awful. Why would you do this in the show? This is so nice. This is so much nicer. And you still have her showing that she really wants to go on patrol, like she wants to do this thing. And I like that she's a little bit more demanding with Joel because it's reflecting that she's kind of upset with him. She's feeling this. So this is often what happens when people keep secrets from each other, whether it's one party or both parties. They will go into like offense, defense against each other. And so that's what we're seeing happening with Ellie here. She sees that Joel is keeping secret or feels like he is. And so she's attacking, hoping to it's a subconscious thing to bring things out into the open. But it also is more likely that them being closer, that she would take out anger on him. This is also a phenomenon of close family, is that people in a close family seem to feel safe taking out anger and treating poorly fellow family members, which is bizarre, but unfortunately true. And it's because you know that I can do this and they're still going to love me. And again, that's a subconscious thing. It's not something that you're aware of when you do it, but that's what happens. This is why kids will often say horrible things to their parents or to their siblings. That's the reason why it happens. But they don't say those things to like their friends at school or to teachers or coworkers. Like, this is why it happens only in close family. But anyway, I'm just liking this. This is so nice. You're still getting that tension and that anger in there, without the characters seeming like spoiled children. Well, the one. And actually, Tommy was acting very immature for just letting Ellie go out on patrol. Like, fine, I'll let you go on patrol because you threw such a big tantrum. I guess I'll let you have your way. So they talk briefly about the comic book series that Ellie likes and that Joel was picking up comics for her in game 1. And he talks about how he doesn't really get it. He doesn't like it so much, but he did like that they escaped at the end of one. I couldn't really follow exactly what... I didn't see the comic, so I didn't know what he was talking about, but I don't think it really matters all that much. I do sort of wonder when he said, but I like the twist that they escaped at the end. I wonder if that's alluding at all to the escape in game 1. Like, this is supposed to be a sort of thematic reflection of that, but I don't know. Anyway, they get into this hotel because they need to cut through this hotel to get to the music store. And it's got spores in there, and Ellie didn't have her mask on at first, and Joel berates her, like, you got to get in the habit of putting that on whenever there's spores around, because people will figure it out that you're immune. And then he's like, did you ever tell anybody else about your immunity? Because right now it's only Joel and Tommy that know about it. And so he's like, did you tell Dina? Did you tell Jesse? And she's like, no. And he's very adamant about, like, you cannot tell anybody. This is, again, his protectiveness, knowing what they were willing to do to her at the end of game 1. He doesn't want anybody to ever know about it. And the only person he trusts to know about her immunity is Tommy. This is a 3-person family at this point. You've got Ellie, Tommy, and Joel. So I like this moment here. I like that we're showing that he's like, you can't let anybody know. I don't think we had a moment like that in the show. I don't think we ever had her and Joel talk about, you know, how Joel is like, you can't tell anybody about this, which is not something that he was so strict about in, like, or before the moment. I mean, there wasn't really an opportunity that I recall where he'd be like, you can't tell anybody. I mean, I think he did tell her, like, you can't tell anybody, like, when they first set out on their journey, but it didn't really come up after that. She just never did bring it up. But now, after the results of game 1, what happened at the end there, we see him bringing it up again. Like, it's really important to him now, and it's on his mind. Nobody can know that she has this, or that she's immune, something that maybe wasn't so prevalent in his thoughts after going on that journey with her, or, you know what I mean, but before finding out that the Fireflies were going to kill her in order to to figure out how to make a cure from her or whatever. Would have been a good scene to include too. They're exploring the hotel and trying to figure out, you know, where did these infected come from? And Joel brings up that they're, you know, these are obviously infected who just wandered through and then went in here, not people who got infected and then sent here. And he mentions that the only people from Jackson who went missing are some teenagers from the year before, which I think this is going to be a story, I think, that comes up again, because why else bring it up? And they would probably have been friends of Ellie's, since she will have been now at Jackson for at least a year. I think this is maybe 2 years at this point, maybe more. Either way, they're going through the hotel, and Joel hears some clickers on the other side of some doors, and he goes, I hear them in there. And Ellie's like, well, we are on patrol, like insinuating let's just go kill them. Like, that's what you do when you're a patroller. And he's like, okay, fine. Like, you know, but let's be quick and careful. And the two of them go in and separately take out different clickers and infected, you know, doing it the stealth way where you jump on them and knife them so that way you're not firing a gun, attracting more clickers. I like this. This is nice to have seen the two of them on patrol together, taking out infected. Like, we never really got to see this in game 1, although we did see the two of them working together. It was a big deal that that Joel allowed Ellie to step up and be part of a team as opposed to being his ward. So I really like this. To see the two of them working together as equals is really exciting, and it must have been so thrilling for people who have followed them through game 1 and then wanted to see the two of them as equals working together, to get to this point and be like, we're seeing it, the two of them as a team, this is great. And we've seen that Ellie has acquired the skills that she needs to be able to do this at this point, and we believe it, especially after everything that she went through in game 1. Plus we saw her with Cannibal Guy, I forget what his name was, the two of them working together. But again, we didn't see her and Joel working together. So this must have felt really good to see this scene and watch the two of them working together as equals, and to be one of them working through a hotel full of infected, of clickers, and having to go and take them out one at a time, working as equals. Like, this is great. This would have been so nice to have seen this. I keep saying that, but you have to. I mean, what else is there to say? At one point, Ellie comes and helps Joel. He's struggling with one of the clickers he's taking out, and she knifes it for him. And then they go through this door, and there's a bloater, and it's coming after them. And Ellie almost gets taken out. Like, this was actually, it was intense to the point that I was nervous for Ellie. Like, she got grabbed by the bloater and I was like, oh my gosh, this thing's going to tear her apart. But then Joel jumps in with a machete and just takes it out, and very violently. Like, this was good. This is good action, and it's nice to see the two of them having to work to help each other. And then afterwards they sort of congratulate each other, like, wow, that was great. And he's like, yeah, we did a great job. Like, which I can't imagine them doing in the show. I can kind of understand why they did it. They wanted to show that Joel had become more protective of Ellie, maybe even more so than he was ever before, and kind of exemplify that. So maybe that's missing here. They could have had him a little more reluctant to say it, but he does talk about like how he's getting old, and I don't think that we can do, I can do this forever. I forget what the heck he says. Either way, it doesn't matter. But the only thing that they showed was that he's recognizing that he is getting old. But he seems to be like, yeah, we make a good team. This is great. I think it would have been a good idea to have a scene where we see that he feels that way, but then also, yeah, but we really should avoid this situation in the future. Like, we should let ourselves get into the show a little bit more of that caution. I would have been okay with that. Here, we're showing that he's still pretty confident in his ability, and he's also confident in Ellie's ability, which sort of undermines that protectiveness that we had a moment earlier. But it's not the worst thing ever. I probably wouldn't even have noticed this if I didn't have the show to compare it to and see, I think that they are trying to show that he is even more protective of her. The whole him not letting her go out on patrol and stuff like that. But here, he's recognizing her capability, so she definitely deserves it more in the game. Like, I could see him trusting her because she's obviously more competent in the game, whereas in the show, she's obviously not more competent. So that makes sense there too. I guess they did fine then with the writing in the show. Okay, yeah, we do get the conclusion of the teenagers who ran away from Jackson the year before. So they come across some dead people and a note, and they read it, and it's from the two people who ran. They said, look, we heard that there was a bunch of people who were suffering outside of Jackson. We were tired of doing nothing about it. We wanted to go and help, but we didn't get an hour before we ran into a horde and got bitten, and we don't want to turn, so we've decided to kill ourselves. And then on the back, there's a note from the guy, Adam, saying, I shot her and she's dead, but I can't kill myself. I'm a coward. I loved it. That was good. That was a good conclusion. And then she goes, it's too bad they weren't immune. And Joel becomes a little awkward, but sort of, walking away from this. And then we get a great conversation here. This is such a more natural place for this sort of thing to come out. Like, we saw the lead into this. We saw that Tommy recognized there was something off between Joel and Ellie and had a talk with her about, you should go and talk to him and, just get this out. That's the only way, that was good. And then we get the two of them going on this adventure. We see that they are more like equals and regarding each other more like equals. So this is a good time for them to have this conversation where Ellie wants to know what the hell happened. And she's like, I had so many questions for the Fireflies. We traveled so far to see them. And why did you take me out of there while I was still unconscious? Like, why? And he's like, well, because they were done with their tests and they were useless. So I got us out of there. That's not a convincing excuse. I actually like that they made it more convincing in the show where he says a bunch of raiders came and so I had to get us out of there. Like, that was a more believable lie. I could definitely see Ellie in the game being haunted by, why did he take me out of there when there was no emergency? That does not make any sense. But then she should also be asking herself, how did I end up unconscious with the Fireflies? Like, why didn't now in the game, she was unconscious before she got there. She was laying there drowned and so never woke up. That would be suspicious. Like, why didn't they wake me up and talk to me before they just decided to start running their tests? That's a weird thing to do. And then you take me out of there before I get a chance to talk to them ever. It's just very awkward and weird. So of course she would be suspicious. Now in the show, she was conscious, and then obviously they must have jumped her or something, because when she woke up in the truck at the end, she's like, what the hell happened? Why am I in a, what happened? And he's like, oh, well, they ran the test. Like, so they jumped her. They did caught her off guard. She should have been asking herself, why did they do that to? I mean, either way, it's all suspicious, but it would maybe be less so if she woke up in the truck at the end in the show and was like, not suspicious about why am I in a hospital gown or what happened. Like, she submitted to the exams and knew that she was going to be sedated for them. So when she gets up, she's like, what the heck happened? We were just at the hospital, you know, and they were running tests. Like I would like that she knew that what was supposed to happen, but he was the only one who knew what they were actually going to do. That was better. But his lie was more convincing in the show. And I feel like you would come up with this doesn't work, your story doesn't work in the game. She would come up with that a lot more easily, knowing that he brought her there. She was unconscious when they got to the Fireflies and unconscious when I would actually be questioning, did we actually get there? Did you like just put me in a hospital gown and leave and say, oh, we found the Fireflies? It'd be very, very suspicious. So I do like what they claimed in the show. The execution, however, was not better. So not that it was bad here, just I do like that they made the lie more believable in the show. Yeah, and she's rightfully upset. You know, why'd you take me out of there so quickly? They could have run other tests. They could have maybe figured something out. And he's like adamant, there was no cure. I wish it was different. I know you wish it was different, but it wasn't. And this is also a good time to bring this up after having come across the bodies of the two dead, not just because it's like, oh, maybe, you know, if only they were immune. They left Jackson because they heard people were suffering elsewhere and they wanted to do something about it. They wanted to help. It's like touching on her desire to have meaning as well. Something that wasn't really brought up in the show or even the game so much. Like, it was brought up towards the end. I would have brought it up a little bit sooner, but like, for Ellie to have a strong desire to be of help, to like, I want to save everybody, that would have been nice, and not just bring it up towards the end. And so anyway, but I like what they're at least doing here. Like, this is a good move here, and this is a good trigger for her coming across these two dead teenagers to spark her personal conflict with what happened in the previous game and why she would really get into it now. This is not just her trying to settle the tremulous water between her and Joel. This is about what her personal goal was, to be of help to everybody. And so it's more personal is what I mean. It's more meaningful, her reason for being upset. It's not just about something's being hidden. It's about her opportunity to help people is gone. It would have been so much better if this was alluded to, this strong desire to help everybody, more throughout game one, like for her to talk about this more constantly. And knowing, if they had known that they were going to get a game two, that would have been an important thing to put in throughout game one, that this is a strong driving force for her. She wants to be helpful. I mean, we could assume that it's within her nature to want to do that, but to show no like real evidence of this being a very specific thing that she wants to do, that she wants to be able to help. Like, hey, maybe, you know, she could be talking about how if I'm able to cure everybody, if we're able to make a cure from my blood or whatever, then think of all the cool things that we could do. Like, have her talking about that throughout game one. That would have been an awesome change to make for the show. Unfortunately, they made so many other horrible changes and they never did anything with good. Well, they did do a couple of good things, but it didn't help. They did so bad with the poor choices that were made. The good choices they made didn't help bring it back up in any way. So anyway, that's a discussion we're long past at this point. But yeah, so Joel doubles down on there was no cure, there was no point, and, you know, in staying there, that's why we left. And especially since he did not give a convincing lie, like there were raiders, and that is why we left in a hurry and didn't stick around to talk to anybody else. Ellie's dissatisfaction with that response is so understandable here. And yet he's like, look, we got to get these dead bodies of these teenagers back to their families, or at least word of them back to their families. It doesn't matter. Either way, he gives an excuse for why they should leave. And he's like, unless you want to hash out something more here, is you got anything? And she's like, no. And then they leave, and it's the end of this flashback section here. I like this. I wish that they had done this instead of having everything explode in one conversation, like seeing a build up to it, like that Ellie had tried to broach the subject before and Joel just like doubles down on it. I really couldn't say why they would make the decision to not do it. I don't think it would have been that much to add to the story. And quite honestly, the second season wasn't that many episodes. It was not nearly as long as the first season was. Did they have a smaller budget? I thought that season one was so successful that their budget for season two you would think would be a little bit bigger. But they had fewer episodes. So I don't know. Who knows? I guess we might never know if they don't get a season 3, but we'll find out eventually. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna do for this video. Check back in a couple of days and I will get part 4 up. This is the end of part 3. And I guess that's it. So please like, subscribe, and comment, even if it's just with an emoji. It is a free way to support this channel and boost this video in the algorithm. Otherwise, if you're feeling generous and you have the means, check out my Patreon, Ko-fi, or hit the money heart thanks button down below. Remember that you can become a subscriber or you can leave a one-time tip, and I really do appreciate any support that you can give. That's it. Be good to yourself.